champions.
Swing and a miss. Struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Flyers are going to win the Stanley Cup. The Flyers win the Stanley Cup. For the lead. Yes! Iverson, wow, what a fake off Daniels as he broke his ankles and got all the way to the cup.
What is back? What is going on? What is going on? It is half of the Drunk on Brawl crew. We got Rich is at home celebrating a T-Rex sized birthday party. And Jay's holding down the supermarket. So listen, Joe and I are here. We're inadvertently coordinating outfits. Number 5 will always love you. Listen, we're here to talk all things Philly sports, man. What's going on? How you doing?
I'm doing great, Don. You know, we're one day closer to the regular season for our Philadelphia Eagles, and luckily for the baseball side of things, the Phillies are playing the Reds, so it's looking good. It's looking good. You know, they're up. I think they're up 6-1 right now. So they should, if they hold on, to win this series and onto those Pirates.
And listen, they got a bunch of games coming up where they're very, very winnable, and they can really set themselves apart in this wild card race. Where I think you look at the teams that they're playing against, it's kind of weird how the Padres just kind of fell off and haven't really been able to collect themselves since Tatis is, he was out.
Yeah.
You're too far away from the Braves and the Mets to really think that it's attainable to get to that point. I look at it and I'm like, I like where they are. I like that they have a bunch of winnable games. There's one little stretch in there where they can't remember the order, but they play a combination of like the Braves, the Blue Jays, and then I think the Braves again.
Okay.
But I really like where they are, man. I like the even this series with Cincinnati had a little bit of adversity, but then they come back, man. The game last night, super exciting.
Yeah. I mean, it is the Reds. I mean, you can't really. I guess you don't want to buy too much into it, but still, just the fact that they had the lead, they blow the save, and then the closer that came in for the Reds is no slouch. I mean, looking at, I think he was 4-1 with a 1.7 ERA. So, for them to be able to battle back with that big hit by Stott last night, and then Maton coming through clutch was huge. They definitely need to continue to start separating themselves, and reaching for the 2 seed or the 3 seed. It's really, and then of course we're gonna get our big bopper back as early as Monday this week coming up. So things are lining up.
Even seeing him last night.
Oh man, how about that?
And listen, that anytime that your big stars go down and play in AA, AAA, it's just exciting for it's a closer look for the fans. But they sold out the 10,000 seats within minutes of them making the announcement. And he's got to be down there. He has to exhaust the timeline of the DL in order for him to be eligible to come back. But exciting to see that in the middle of a really exciting Phillies game, where they're going back and forth with the Reds, you're interjecting his first at bat where he absolutely crushes the ball, and then maybe like an hour and a half, 2 hours later, at the third at bat goes opposite field.
Yeah.
Exciting to see that he's kind of ramping up to be able to get back. And, really, you got a ton of contributions up and down that lineup from Derek Hall, from, Alec Boehm. You got, God, can we say enough? Can we throw more bouquets at Stott, man? Because Stott they really gave him every opportunity to be successful, and he's really ran with it.
He's really, taking the bull by the horns, raising his batting average and getting clutch hits, late in games when the game's on the line. He had that game earlier against Scherzer. He was 4 for 4, and I don't think anybody's ever done that against Scherzer. So
no, he almost went yard last night.
Yeah, that was the closest ball I've ever seen to going out without going out. That was crazy. But he's been fantastic. Rob Thompson's making all the right calls, and whatever string he's pulling seems to really it seems to be the right move for the most part. You put Maton up there. Maton walks up, and I'm like, really? Like 0 for 8 as a pinch hitter? Like, but there's not a lot of options now with some of these guys being out with injury. So you gotta just see what you got with these guys. So it was huge. It was huge for his confidence. Guys like Sosa too, really coming through in big moments as well. All that can do is bode well for them. As you get closer to that playoff push, you season these guys now, and they're going to be ready for those kind of moments.
I mean, and listen, some of Jay and Adam, you're checking in. Jay's checking in. He's cheating on work a little bit. We appreciate you checking in, brother. Listen, Jay brings out that 13 game hitting streak with Castellanos, right? He's starting to pick it up. It's good. They're all good problems to have. All problems that we really didn't have in years past, and now you're really starting to see that lineup that Dombrowski had to pay for, right? But that lineup that was built to succeed in this ballpark, right? You're seeing contributions from guys all up and down the lineup, but you're also getting the power contributions from Schwarber, Hoskins. You're seeing Boehm getting clutch hits. Real Muto has been getting good hits in the clutch. The shame about it is that that you have the Marsh injury, which for a guy that was just coming over really seemed to slot really well in this lineup. He gets injured. They pick a guy up essentially off the scrap heap, but you're really seeing guys slotted in the right spots. You have the shame with what happened with you get two guys that you rely on in the back end of your bullpen. They go out. Who's a guy that's got to step up for you in the back end of the bullpen now that Sir Anthony will be back? It looks like a lot sooner than we thought.
Yeah.
Is there a guy that you're looking to fill in that role to kind of hold it down until they can come back?
Well, I mean, I guess a couple of names come to mind. Maybe Coonrod and Bellotti. You just need them to kind of bend but not break. You got to keep from having those big innings. You got to, they just need to hold down the fort as long as possible without, having a meltdown inning, or if they do have a bad game or a bad inning, they're able to, have a short memory. And I think that's what's good about Rob Thompson. He seems to be, whether they win 10-0 or they lose 10-0, it's about keeping the guys calm, cool, collected, and ready to go for the next game. and I think that's the players really appreciate him for that. But those two guys are the ones that come to mind for me. And then I think Robertson's your closer regardless, just because of the season he's had and the success that that he has had. He had a rough night the other night, but other than that, I think he's been really good for them.
Right, and to speak to that, right, like you look at that situation where he has that moment where he struggles. But I love the fact that it came out after the game that he asked for that, right? Like he was like, I want to be in that spot.
Yeah.
So that's a guy that you want holding down the back end of your bullpen.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to see how this lineup looks when you insert Harper back, because they really, honestly, they didn't skip a beat in terms of getting, the production that they ended up getting with Derek Hall was really like a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, him and Stott and Maton and Sosa have filled it admirably and done and exceeded our expectations. Mm-hmm. Alec Boehm has been fantastic. He's like flipped the switch, and now he's our best hitter. It's crazy. It really is crazy to see how he has matured and progressed at the plate. And in the field, he's still going to have his errors from time to time. He owns it. He owns it, and then he comes up to the plate and hits an RBI single or gets a double or moves a runner over. So he's been fantastic. So
and Joe, to talk about a guy who over the course of the last season really struggled defensively. He's been really, really good in the field. And it's almost like that one moment where he gets caught on tape going, I fucking hate this place, right? That one little glimpse into his mentality right there, right? Being able to verbalize it. But then I think the part that kind of flipped the switch for him was where he embraced it. He was like, yeah, I said it.
He didn't run.
He didn't deny it. He didn't walk it back. He didn't apologize. He was like, no, I said it. It was how I was feeling in that moment.
Yeah.
Right? But ever since then, right, then he gets that opportunity to now just go out and play and not have to really think about anything.
Right.
He's been really, really impressive defensively. It's hard to imagine that Girardi was managing this team at the beginning of the season. It feels so long ago because they've done so well since then that, like, at one point, I really had to look. I was looking back through stuff, and I'm like, I completely forgot that Girardi was even the manager.
It doesn't even feel like the same year.
It really, truly felt like it was a completely different season.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, when in anything in life, in a wherever you work, whatever you're doing, if you're teaching, whatever it is, you're a teacher, you're a nurse, you're a boss of a warehouse, you run an airline. People, and I've learned. I mean, I'm 44 years old. I've done just about anything for work. Your boss, the owner, whoever, they're the tone setter. That for a successful business or sports organization, you feed off of your boss or the upper management. It's who's ever setting the tone. And Joe Girardi was so disconnected from probably all of his players. He was so focused on the analytical side of things. He had no personality, or he didn't show it. And nobody wants to be around that. Why am I going to give 110% for somebody who's worried about, what I should be doing in the sixth inning when the guy's on second base.
Right.
It's you have to, even if you don't mean it, you still have to show them, or at least ask, or you have to feel like or act like you're connected with your employees or your teammates or the players.
Truly. I mean, that connection, showing them that it's about more than just the production on the field, just what happens in the field. That's where you can flip a switch, when you can get them to buy in.
Yeah.
And that's where I feel like that's where the change in the helm of this manager has really flipped the mentality of this entire team. And like you saw it when Marsh comes in, and he endears himself right, and it's almost like he fit right in with those guys.
Yeah.
Right? They're all on the top step, waiting for the next big hit, and he's right there with them.
Yeah.
And I know Syndergaard he's not Thor.
No.
But he's progressively gotten a little bit better each start. He's won, the Phillies have won all 4 of his starts.
Right.
Now he does skip the start.
Yeah.
And misses the Mets.
Yeah. How convenient.
Listen, probably not the worst decision, because when he's on and he does have a tendency to leave balls out. The Mets crushed the ball for 4 straight days, but they have gotten really productive starts, and every time they get a productive start from him, that's one less game that you have to play guys and pitch guys like Bailey Falter, or have a bullpen game.
Yeah.
So the fact that you are getting production from a roster spot that you weren't getting from the one that you traded away,
right,
in Mickey Moniak.
Absolutely.
I mean, that situation, all 3 of those trades at the deadline, they're getting all sorts of production up and down, and it's just, I love to see where Dombrowski is, right where he built this team. But I'm going to ask you one more question before we flip the script and go talk a little birds. I want to look ahead a little bit in next offseason. Next offseason, there's a ton of shortstops. Is there a guy you got your eye on? Are you a Dansby Swanson guy? Are you a Trey Turner guy?
Yeah, I mean, once you started talking, as soon as you said offseason, I immediately thought Trey Turner. Thought Trey Turner because there's been some talk, been some chatter since he went out to LA that I think he's from Florida. He wants to come East Coast so he can be closer to home. What better way to stick it to the Nationals too? Hey, let's go play for the Phillies.
Right, him and Harper. Right.
Yeah. Hey, Bryce, what's up, man?
There was a little social media chatter because their wives are both friends on social media, so they posted the wives had posted a picture of the 2 of them.
Yeah.
So, I that's the guy that I'm looking at. And listen, Joe, if you can plug that guy into this lineup, and then you slide now Stott goes to second.
That's yeah.
And now you quietly have a incredibly productive lineup. You got a lot of pop and power all up and down the lineup. You get to move on in a matter of months, move on from D. Gregorius and Gene Segura, who has been productive, don't get me wrong.
Right.
But you're now slotting in a younger, just as, or if not going to be more productive player. And then you get generational talent in Trey Turner. You could make a case that this team is now going to play super hard contention with the Mets.
Sure. And then, if everything lines up and all the ducks go in a row, you flip Segura for a legit third starter. I think
I like that.
I like Ranger, but he's not a 3. I like Gibson, he's not a 3. And
Those two guys are more 4-5, right?
yeah, and Syndergaard, I mean, I don't know. Is he here? Is he not here? You need 3 guys. You need 3 go-to guys to be able to hang with a team like the Mets. They Bassett, DeGrom, Scherzer, Word, Nola, Wheeler, and I mean,
like in a playoff series.
yeah. It's like the flavor of the week. Is are we going with Suarez? Are we going with Gibson? If it's Syndergaard, like you were saying earlier, do we want Syndergaard to even pitch against the Mets?
Listen, if they play the Mets,
oh my God! Could you imagine him? Could you imagine him up there playing in New York for a playoff game?
Oh my God! Listen, I don't want him anywhere near the mound unless it's like unless they're down by a ton and they just need somebody to eat up innings. But that third starter is got to be it's either Gibson or Suarez, and I think it could be a situation where you kind of play the lineup, right? Do you want them facing a lefty or a righty?
Yeah.
And I think the hard part, right? That wild card series is 3 home games. Wherever that falls, they play all 3 games at one site. So there's no travel involved.
Right.
So, ideal scenario, you go in there, you win the first 2, and you turn that rotation over because you get enough of a break, and you don't even have to go to a third guy in the first series.
Right. Yeah.
So
that's your perfect storm, perfect scenario.
Oh my God, that's my dream scenario. And then you're talking about now you get the divisional round, you get to play now at some point. You probably that when that series flips, you get to put the bunting up, you get to hand the rally, get the boxes of rally towels out, knock the dust off of those. Been sitting in storage for a decade. Listen, that's we've been hankering for some Red October, man, and I'm all over it. Those days where you can have the Eagles play at 1:00. Everybody sits in the parking lot and waits for the 8:05 first pitch from a Phillies playoff game. Those are days where I'm like, I love those are just great.
Yeah, you can't really top that. That's one hell of a day in Philly right there.
Those are great. Those are great days.
Yes.
Joe, any other Phillies that you want to jump? Let's jump right into the Birds.
Yeah, let's do it. I mean, that's what it's all about.
Birds win. They win preseason game number 2 in Cleveland. Not a whole lot to report in terms of. I don't think any of the starters played other than like a handful of guys.
Yeah.
Couple of really impressive plays though. First play I'm going to talk about, Joe, is it was on the first drive, and it was one of the first couple plays in that series where they hand the ball off, and you got to see Cam Jurgens on full display.
Yeah.
Talk me through, because I think I rewound that play. It had to be like 20-something times, man.
He's countryman strong. He is countryman strong. He's athletic. He's just got that. He's got that edge. He's got that power. He has the technique, and I think they've been looking at this guy. They looked at this guy for a while, and I think Kelsey, watched his game while he was at Nebraska.
It's eerie.
It is
how close those two guys look.
Yeah,
and we've said it before. Like, you could swap jerseys and not even be able to tell the difference between the two of them.
Yeah. The way they approach it, the way their technique, their hands, the way they have their hands. They both. Well, obviously Jason Kelsey is always in the right place at the right time, but Juergens seems to be falling into that mold as well. He just, he could take on blockers, he could shed blockers. He seems like he's sliding in and not missing a beat, which is great. It's great for now and it's great for the future. That he's getting all. I guess it's kind of like a blessing in disguise that Kelsey is banged up and is out for a little while. So he's getting those reps. He's getting that playing time. So he's not, coming into a game cold. Or if he needs to play game 1 or game 2, because I don't know if any of us really know what's going to happen in game 1. I mean, if I'm sitting back and guessing right now, I'm thinking he's probably going to play. If I had to guess, just because of what kind of player he is and how he hates not being in the lineup. But it's just great knowing and seeing it live in front of our eyes how he's able to excel already.
It is kind of wild. And I heard someone I think I heard Ruben Frank talking about the lineup that they had on the offensive line in that game was all backup guys. But he started to make the argument that that starting 5 that started in this preseason game against Cleveland, that starting 5 could be some better than some teams' ones. And he started going through it, and I'm looking at it, and I'm going, yeah, I mean, you could make a case that starting 5, they have a really, really strong offensive line room, right? And you cannot convince me that has it's all due to Jeff Stoutland.
That's one man that they can never let. Do not let that man leave.
That guy, Joe, we're going to be talking to our grandkids about Jeff Stoutland because they're going to be rolling him out on a wheelchair because they can't afford to get it. They can't afford to let him go, man. He can turn any guy into a productive player.
Right. Yep.
And you get and then you see the production, right? You got really good carries from Kenny Gainwell. You got good production from Boston Scott. I mean, the other guys that Jason Huntley gets some carries, like guys that aren't going to be on the roster.
Right.
The second play. Talk to me about the 55-yard bomb to Devin Allen, right? A guy who hasn't played a game in a while.
Yeah, I mean, speed kills. Speed kills.
My man's got speed to burn, man.
He does, and I mean, it was great, and I feel great for the guy, and he'll never forget that moment. It's just. Listening to sports talk on the radios and listen to stuff on TV. It's what can he do other than that? Can he? I mean, he's going to have to play special teams.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to be able to. Can he block? Can he deliver a hit? Can he take a hit? Can he withstand the day-to-day grind? The week-to-week grind of that kind of contact. Because you see a lot of these guys that. They're one-trick ponies and they can run a 4.2 or 4.25 or whatever it is, but they can't stay healthy or they can't translate that speed to the field.
Yeah.
We saw him do that, but can he do it on a consistent basis? And how's he going to hold up with the regiment of all of that contact, which he's not, he hasn't been exposed to that. And
right.
is he football or is he track?
Yeah,
Where's his
and
head at? Is he more football or is he more track? Because he's doing all this Olympic stuff. It's it's like you gotta put it all into one or the other.
listen, I agree. I think you saw track star speed right there, right? You saw him. Nobody bumped him on the line, right? He was able to no, there was no bump and run coverage. He was able to just make a beeline straight down the field, and no one ever touched him.
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously, you know that teams, if he's on the field, teams are going to scheme to that, right? They're going to know that the only reason he's on the field is because they're trying to stretch the defense.
Yep.
So you have to be able to put him in situations, if he does end up making this roster where, you see if he has the ability to be able to get space and separation when they know that that's what he's on the field to do. I think the thing that's going to be hard for him is that he's battling a guy that does the same exact thing. Right? He and Britton Covey, who's a guy who we talked about,
Right.
last week. They both do the same kind of thing, right? They're both fast, speedy, shifty. Get them in space and let them stretch the field. I think at the end of the day, it might be them keeping one of them on the roster to do return, and then one of them they try to stash in the practice squad.
Right. Yeah.
Or both. Or they both.
No, I think because then you right now just because of experience and I mean Covey's younger. He just played college football not that long ago. Allen hasn't played in a while. He's a little bit older because he's been doing all of his Olympic stuff. But then you got to factor in a guy like Deion Kane. Deion Kane has been great. So
I had the mic cut out.
no worries.
What do you like about Deion Kane?
Deion Kane,
because I like him too.
Because he produces and he has size. He can get separation. He can make a contested catch, and he produces. He had some success with the Colts. Didn't really stick around there, but I just think he has more. He's going to be more consistent. He's going to be more of a guy that's that you can rely on if you really have to. I mean, what's he going to be? Receiver 5, receiver 6. I think it's Covey. If they keep 6, I think it's Covey, and Kane. I don't know unless for some reason they decide to keep Rieger.
Joe, and this is why I wanted to talk about Deion Kane, because I think for me, I think that between now and the start of the season, I think Howie Roseman is doing whatever he can to get some kind of value out of Jalen Reagor. Problem is that you can put him in a showcase spot in the second preseason game, and I think he gets like 6 targets. And out of the 6 targets, he's got 2 receptions for 17 yards. So
yeah,
and
that's
that's in a second preseason game against
backup second or third stringer. Yeah,
right. All the guys from Cleveland that are fighting for jobs and spots. Like, you're trying to put him in a place where you can kind of sell. You can't even sell high. I'm just saying sell-ish.
Yeah.
Right. And right now you're really going to be lucky to get, a 5, a 6, maybe. Right. At the very least, you maybe swap him for someone that might end up on your roster or on your practice squad. And I hate to say that, but at some point, I think with him, how many? I know that they drafted they invested a lot of draft capital. Now, not his fault that he gets picked in the first round,
Yeah.
but Joe, he's not even producing for any round. Like he's just not producing in this role on this team.
Right.
He, to me, is a dude that, a team like Chicago, who we talked about last week, who needs wide receivers. If whatever you can do to kind of swap him out for something that has value, right? And speaking of swapping stuff, did you see that the guy that they swapped for Arcega-Whiteside? They now
He already got traded.
He already got traded to Tennessee.
Yeah.
Right? And that to me is an undercover Howie Roseman move. Right? Because he swapped Arcega-Whiteside for a player. Right? He obviously wasn't getting the value that he thought he would. So he kind of got a guy who maybe had a little bit more marketability and a little bit more value. And essentially you traded Arcega-Whiteside for what is going to be a pick swap.
Right.
It's kind of it's a shiesty Howie, but it's a Howie Roseman move, right?
Yeah, I think that's why it's so hard for them to decide on what they're going to do with Rieger, just for the fact that he was a first round pick. You know how he is.
I know
with the high picks. You got to go. We're giving him an opportunity. We're gonna give him another opportunity. We're gonna give him another opportunity. But with you don't need Rieger. Rieger was good in training camp. Rieger hasn't been good in either one of the preseason. The actual games when it really matters, he's invisible. I think of Deion Kane in those games. I don't think of Jalen Rieger.
Right. Deion Kane was a guy who bodied up guys, went over top of a guy to catch a ball.
Yeah.
Was a really good route runner, right? If you go back, not that preseason stats or anything to make a decision on, right? But Deion Kane had 5 catches for 66 yards, right?
But it's a mentality too. Like I just don't think. I don't. What I mean, he could go somewhere else and do well. Which
I hope he does.
Exactly.
I have no ill will. He just stinks here.
Right. For us, he's done nothing. And he's expendable at this point. When you have A.J. Brown, Kez Watkins, Devonta Smith, Zach Pascal, and whoever after that, he is expendable because if you keep him, what's he going to be? The 5?
I mean, right. And at that point, you can't trust him to play special teams. Right? You can't trust him to be the returner.
He's not built. He's not built. He doesn't have the mindset of. He doesn't have that killer instinct. He doesn't like contact. He doesn't. You could tell that, and you can see that and hear that in the way he responds on social media, and just use the eye test of watching him during games.
Right.
He's skittish, and he's like it's almost like he's always hearing the footsteps, and it gets to him. It gets to him. That's why he's not able to make those and really any kind of catch. He's missing a lot of balls. He missed a lot of balls. Doesn't know where he is on the field. It's a vicious cycle, and I'm hoping that it ends before the season starts.
I mean, listen, and the additions that they made that you're just talking about, right? Over the course of the last couple seasons, they really didn't have a whole lot of other options. So he had to play.
Right.
But now in the course of the last couple seasons, right, you add A.J. Brown, right? You add Devonta Smith, you add Zach Pascal, you add John Hightower, you add all these guys, and he just, instead of rising up and meeting the level of talent that is now in that wide receiver room, it's almost like he's regressed and gotten further away, because I think he's where I think the confidence lacks is I think he sees that, right? He sees Devontae Smith go out and just to touch on, some of the stuff that came out of that shared camp day with the Dolphins today, right? When he sees Devontae Smith go out and torch DBs, when he sees AJ Brown go up and body wide receiver, body DBs and make one-handed catches, and they do it effortlessly. And he sees that, and then he goes out in a preseason game and has 2 catches for 17 yards.
He's just
that's the stuff that I think gets in his head, and it lets him know that the reality of the situation is that he's further away from those guys than he is close.
Sure. Yeah, because he thinks or knows that he doesn't have to worry about that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole social media thing of Twitter and wherever else he's on, and people are messaging him or he's sending stuff back. It's like that just shows that you're not mentally tough.
Right.
You don't need to respond to that. Turn it off.
Right.
Turn it off. Don't do it. Don't post. Don't read it. Don't look. Like, just go out and play ball. But I don't think he can do that. Like, I don't think he knows how to get better or want to get better, or even at this point he might not think that he has to, because of pretty much this whole entire receiving core that we have is already better than him.
Yeah.
Really?
I mean, listen, at this level, when you are playing at the highest level of anything, the separation between the guys that are elite at that level and then the quote unquote just the guys, right? He is now just a guy, right? Mm-hmm. He is a guy that is at this point on this roster, because everybody else has kind of elevated the talent, kind of disposable at this point.
Definitely. But it's that first round pick line hanging over his head.
It really is.
That's it. I mean, even if he was a late round pick, he would be a bust.
And that's why I say, Joe, like, it's not his fault where he got picked.
Right.
But where he got picked aside.
He's just not a good player. He's not a good player. He's not good, and he doesn't really do anything to help this team or make this team better.
Right. Joe, if you go out, right, if you're talking to your financial advisor and you give him, 3 years ago, you make an investment in a company that you thought was like on the come, and after 3 years, you're talking to a guy and it's just losing money every year, right? At some point, your financial guy is going to be like, "Yo, Joe, we got to move this money." Like, I don't care that you thought it was like top notch, next hot thing coming, right? You cut bait and you start to reinvest that financial capital somewhere else. It's going to take for the Eagles to see that this investment in this draft pick is just sunken money, right? You can't. It's lost money at this point.
Yeah, I mean, two seasons, 695 yards, and 3 touchdowns for a first round wide receiver.
Yeah,
that's just it doesn't work.
No, it doesn't work. Not in a day and age where you get guys that are going to get that you get guys that are picked all up and down that draft that never had the problems that he had in terms of getting massive production. So, it's sunken money at this point. It's not anything that I want to continue to invest. That's on them until they see the opportunity to say, we got to move on from him, there's nothing we can do.
Right.
Just sit back and watch. Now, on the defensive end, any of those young guys that you saw that are, there were a lot of young guys that got a lot of play. There were two guys that kind of jumped off the tape for me. First guy I want to talk about it was a free agent that they signed, free agent draftee, Josh Jobe, the kid from Alabama who looks like he's done everything to be able to make this roster and be kind of that like DB3, DB4.
Mm-hmm.
Just a guy I'm really impressed with. Really good pedigree, right out of Alabama.
Yeah.
Could be a guy that it will probably be a guy that will play special teams. And then the young guys, right? Nakobe Dean is a guy that just, even though it doesn't show up super glamorous on the stat sheet, right? He has 1 tackle and 2 assisted tackles, but
right.
You see him out there in leadership roles. I think by the end of the year, that he's starting? You think he can crack the starting lineup?
I don't see why not. I mean, especially if somebody gets injured, which is always a possibility. It's a long season, but he's a guy too. Also pedigree. I mean, look at Georgia. Look at Georgia football. Look at the guys that they produced. And he was the quarterback of the defense down there. I mean, he was one of the best college linebackers ever. He can go sideline to sideline. I mean, he's a little bit short in stature, but it doesn't matter if you can play the game and you can move and you and can make plays. And he seems like a kind of guy that's all he's going to do is make plays. He's just wired that way. He's built that way. He's the leader of the defense. And once he gets his feet wet and he gets those reps in, I think the sky's the limit for a guy like that, because he's got the mind. He seems like he has it.
I'm going to give you a comp for him that I saw, and I'm not going to take credit for it, but I saw someone on one of the, I think it might have been on Facebook. Ryan Shazier.
Mm-hmm.
If he can be Ryan Shazier, you're going to have a guy who's going to spend the next decade manning the middle of that defense, playing behind his boy, who's also going to be in the middle of that defense.
Oh, yeah.
And listen, Joe, no, it's not a wonder that they're starting to hit on some of these draft picks when you look at where these draft picks are coming from.
Yeah,
right.
Finally,
from really high pedigree SEC programs.
What took so long?
It's like all of a sudden they discover the fountain of youth. It's like I'm glad that now we're starting to see that, like, okay, now that we can now go back to that well and say, okay, we know we're getting insanely productive players from these places. Let's continue to go back then and just start creating this pipeline.
Yep.
And it's wild because you look back at these last 2 drafts, right? This year in rounds 1 and 3, right? You take Jordan Davis and you take Nakobe Dean. Last year you draft Devontae Smith and Landon Dickerson. Keep going to those places, Howie.
Yeah, I mean, those schools, they get the best recruits, and their backups could be starters, and their backups, the third string guys, could be starters at other colleges. So you're playing against the cream of the crop, the creme de la creme, the top of the top. So why not dip into that well and take guys that are, they're playing for the national championship, or they're in the playing for the championship game, or the secondary games. It's a long time coming. I mean, you see some of these other teams that draft kids from these schools and go on to be successful. So
Right.
it's nice that they are starting to figure it out. They just need to be consistent with it and keep going with that. And one thing I do want to say,
Go ahead.
huge, with the progression of this offense and how well it's being built and, ascending, the move last year for them to draft Devonta Smith and jump up and get him, because Dallas wanted Surtain went to Denver. So Dallas, they freaked out. They didn't know what to do. So what do they do? Let's trade with the Eagles.
Right.
But the Giants were going to take Smith. Could you imagine if we didn't jump up and make that move, and we were stuck with Rieger? It would be Rieger, Watkins, and who knows? I mean, you're hoping that they still make the move this year for a guy like Brown. But man,
But you don't know though.
That was a huge move for Howie to make and hit on that, because we easily could have missed out on him.
Oh, listen, you don't have to tell me twice, right? That ultimate play in terms of, sliding the draft capital around to be able to maneuver to trade back and then trade up and get the guy that they had targeted the entire time. They knew that they needed to make that move in order to be able to make the move and make themselves viable contenders in the East.
Yeah. Thank you, Cowboys. I hate saying that, I really do, but they made out well too. They took Micah Parsons, so they made out well also.
I sincerely think that that's the guy that I wanted. To truth be told, that if I had my druthers, that would have been the guy that I would have wanted them to pick. Parsons.
Yeah.
Parsons was a guy that, again, a guy like we've talked about, like Nakobe Dean, a guy that you can stick in the middle of your lineup, and they really play him everywhere. And he would have fit, his mentality would have fit in perfectly in this city.
Yeah.
But I also love what Devonta Smith can do and how dynamic a player he can be. So I would have been fine either way.
Right.
But it is fun to go back and look at that stuff and see how, and it's also interesting at the same time to see the Giants continue to fumble those positions.
Yeah. Man.
It's, who knows, man. Joe, before we get out, we got college football starting up, man.
Oh, man. Final.
I still find it weird that they call it week 0.
Week 0, baby.
It's the first week of college football. One of my favorite things. I love the Kirk Herbstreit game day going on campus. Talk to me about what you love about college football. I know you're a big Q's guy.
I am a big Q's guy. I grew up in upstate New York, so don't kill me.
You're good, brother. You're good.
I'm a legit Philly fan, but my college sports roots go back to Syracuse. But I'm also a Penn State fan because I did go to Penn State, and our daughter graduated from Penn State. But it's just these kids just go out and play ball. There's no drama. They're just out there to win. They don't have the egos and all the nonsense that some of these pro athletes can get sucked into. But it's just the rivalry games. Fall is, it's almost like fall is in the air, and then the pro football's right around the corner too. So it kind of just gets everything kicked off. So and it's just the tailgates and the all the festivities and the shenanigans and the hoopla is all I love all you gotta love all that, and I'm actually hoping to get out to a Penn State football game
Nice.
this year. So yeah, I got a good contact, so I'm gonna try to get out there for a game and have like a all day festivities going on.
Listen, Joe, my love for college football is actually kind of in the complete opposite direction of yours.
Okay.
I didn't grow up with a college football team.
Really?
I grew up. My dad loved Villanova basketball.
Okay.
So we would watch Villanova hoops like it was religion. But college football was always just on, right? It was just at noon. Yeah, and my dad was notorious for one TV's in the living room, you got one in the den. He's standing there looking back and forth. Now he's got one on the porch, he's got them all over the place. So it was just always on.
Yeah.
So the part that I love about college football is I don't have a team. I went to Newman College.
Okay.
I didn't go to a big. They don't have a football team.
Right.
So I don't have a rooting interest. I just love the fact that I can flip it on if it's an SEC game at at 3 o'clock on Saturday. If it's a Pac-12 game that's on at 10:30 at night, I can just turn it on and watch whenever. And there's a different atmosphere in college football, which is part of what I love because it's so dynamic. And they're so invested in that team. And you see a lot of the sad fan memes when they lose in dramatic fashion. But college football is just exciting, and it's a different game. And I think the one thing that I'm excited to see how it plays out is how the whole shifting of teams in terms of where they're not where they're geographically located, but their allegiances to different conferences and how that's shifting.
Yeah.
And it's really kind of shifting to 3 or 4 20-team conferences.
Yep.
And you saw UCLA, saw them, and they're going to hop in and join the Big Ten.
Yeah.
Which essentially means that at some point you're going to have an East and West Coast. You're going to have a bilateral, West and East. They're going to have a dividing line. Everybody goes geographically. But just exciting. College football is just exciting. It's just fun stuff, man.
It is. And, growing up a Syracuse sports fan, my aunt and uncle were how I am with the Eagles. It was the game's always on, people are over, you're having all kinds of food, festivities. But, Syracuse was like a pro team just because, you got the Giants, you got the Jets, you got the Bills. But, where I grew up, Buffalo was probably 3 hours.
Yeah,
and
so it's a little far.
City was or the New York City area was probably close to 5. And, I'm 44, so, late 70s, 80s, and 90s, Syracuse sports was, and still is, that's the university for New York State. So,
right.
Basketball, lacrosse, football, they were the top. That was the school to watch. And we watched them. We watched games every day, If basketball was on, we watched basketball. Football was on, we would watch that too. Lacrosse, whatever.
Yeah.
Didn't go to the Carrier Dome a ton, but
okay,
it's a 50,000 seat stadium, indoors, and it was, basketball games. You're getting 30,000 people.
No, I've never been, but is it? When I see it, it reminds me of the Vet. Is it the Vet with a roof?
Kinda. Nicer. I don't know, but it's nice. So I don't know if we can compare it to the vet with the cracks and the leaks and the
I got you.
the small cats. I mean rats running around. But it was it was it was a big deal because that university is all about their. I mean, they're academics, but their sports are huge, and I was sad and disappointed. Growing up during the Big East years. That's why, for me, and going to Penn State for college, Nova was kind of for the Big East. Nova was a rival. So Syracuse, Nova. I mean, there was they hated each other. So I can respect Nova, and I like to break people's balls about Nova because I'm a Penn State guy. But I miss those. I miss those Big East. I miss the Big East and the Big East basketball games. Those rivalries are the greatest for me. Them moving on to the ACC. I know it was a money move, but I think they lost. Their program took a hit because the big recruits are going to go to North Carolina and Duke rather than go.
And the NILs aren't helping.
No, not at all.
The NILs are really given a lot of advantage to all the teams in the South. They're all seeing the benefits of that. Real quick though, did you see the one kid that I think he goes to Kansas? He just got an NIL deal with a heating and air conditioning company.
No, did he?
Did you hear it?
No, I missed that.
His first, you know what his first name is, Joe?
Oh my God! What?
First name is the coldest.
Oh, come on!
capital D-E, capital C-O-L-D, the coldest.
Okay.
He's got an NIL deal with.
Man, he's got a lot to live up to.
But he's got an NIL deal with a local HVAC company.
He better have a good game. He better be a baller. He's going to get dropped.
It's the truth.
He's going to be out in the cold.
Well, it won't be a huge stretch when he has to go. When he has a bad game, because he'll be in the coldest will be in the fridge. Oh my God, that's funny, man. Joe, let's wrap it up, brother. Final thoughts. What do you got for final thoughts?
Oh man, final thoughts. I mean, we just got to keep riding this Phillies wave. Hopefully they're there in the end. When it really counts, it's all about getting in, being healthy, and being on top of your game as you're going into the playoffs. You don't want to just fall into the playoffs. You want to still be playing good ball. And obviously, I'd rather play, the Cardinals or the Brewers. I don't know if I want to play the Braves right off the bat, but anything can happen, and it doesn't. You shouldn't really worry about who you're playing. You just want to be playing good team ball when it really counts. But I can't wait. I can't wait to see how the season wraps up, the regular season wraps up, and I'm hoping and praying that we're there and we can get in there and get a playoff baseball game. That atmosphere is
it's electric. It really is.
When the year that they won the World Series, I was actually back in my chef days. I couldn't get out of work the day that they won the World Series. I wanted to be at a bar. I wanted to be or there.
Yeah.
I exhausted all my options. I could not make it down there. Still kicking myself. But that environment, playoff sports in Philadelphia is.
We're Joe. I really, just to kind of piggyback, I really think we're getting close. I think we're getting close. Where the Phillies team is on the come. I think the Eagles are. We'll see how close they are in terms of quarterback play and how far that team can go. And
Yeah.
I think the Sixers are prime for really the best team that they've had to surround Joel Embiid. So I think that, we won't talk about the Flyers because the Flyers are
they're
the Flyers are flyering right now.
It's just crazy because it's been so long since they've been that they're just so irrelevant.
I
Like
agree.
not even like worth talking about. Like it's just bad.
Yeah. Listen, Joe, for final thoughts, I'm gonna give a shout out to a couple of our sleeper fantasy team owners. We got a couple guys that fired up. We're always looking to kind of help everybody out. They got a survival pool going on. You can head over to their social media and check it out. Last one standing gets a fired up sports T-shirt. So if you want to, it doesn't cost you anything. You can go over there. If you're the last one standing, you get a free T-shirt. And then, a close friend of mine, and Joe, you've probably run into him on some shows, but Chip over at AAT Birds, right there, they're running a huge get for them to be part of this Philly Sports Trips trip down to DC. And they just had the post game on Sunday with Hollis Thomas. They're doing great things over there. So that looks like it's going to be a banger when they drive down there. Last I heard, the total that Philly Sports Trips, I think, has, I want to say the last time I heard, they have 15 buses going.
Wow.
They bought 1,000 seats.
That's awesome, man.
They bought, and here's the great thing. They bought 500 in each end zone. Right, so it doesn't matter
What a plan.
what side they're on. In both end zones, there's going to be a whole pile of Birds fans, man. So it's going to be a ton of fun down there, man. But shout out to everybody that's doing great things, man. Just, if you're out there, keep doing good stuff, man. It's just cool to see everybody out there doing great work.
Yes, sir.
Go Birds! We'll see everybody.
Go
Jason and I will probably be on, maybe talking some Phils on Friday a little bit, maybe some hockey. Who knows?
What team?
Not the team that is currently in the unmentionables behind me.
You need to have a paper bag cutout with the holes just to put over that.
Oh wait, Joe, I changed that to be the. All right,
You used to have that up, didn't you?
I got to pull this up because All right, here we go. You ready? That's the.
There it is.
I changed. I put the logo as the eyeballs in there. I got that's the Twitter profile picture for the Drunk on Ice.
Oh man, that's the best.
Listen.
Sad. It's sad but true.
Listen. We gotta keep it light and bright, brother.
Yeah.
It's the only way to survive.
To get through it.
Oh, all right, Joe.
All right, Don.
You fuck around. You stuck around. You found out. We'll hold it down for Rich. We'll have it. Back together. Listen. Hopefully, the next show we can get everybody back together. We can finish up our Birds draft.
Question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Does Davion Taylor make the cut? Rich, your thoughts?
See you later, Phil.
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl